I just realized that you probably didn't hear any of that. So welcome if you're joining. Hey Nancy, thanks for tuning in. Happy long weekend. So as I was saying before I unmuted my mic, it has been a long weekend here in Ontario and many of us were off today. And my day got away from me. I was actually helping a team member earlier today with some planning for an upcoming party they're doing. So that's exciting. I love coaching my team and seeing them succeed. So I have a card today, just one because it's late, and it was inspired by Australian demonstrator Kylie Bertucci, and I thought I would put my own spin on things. But just a reminder that today is the last day to buy designer series paper and save 15% off select papers. Hand Penned is one of those papers. I know I've used this before in some of my projects, but I pulled it out specifically because tonight I am using a new celebration reward item. So tomorrow the mini catalog and celebration begins, and I'm so excited because this is the first time Stampin' Up! Has had 2 celebrations in a year. And so this is celebration number 2 coming up tomorrow. And so the paper I'm going to use tonight is actually one of the rewards. And so I pulled out Hand Penned because the new paper is called Beautifully Penned. And when I flip this over, so there are 12 sheets, but there's only 3 designs. And so I'm going to show you what those look like. I had them laid out and then I started playing with them. All right, so this is the first design. So the one side is these scallops, and then the back side is the flowers. And then the next design, you have these big, beautiful flowers with polka dot background, and on the back side are these gray, black, and white stripes, sort of watercolorish. And then our last page is black polka dots on white, and then we've got this beautiful greenery. And so if you notice, they've taken designs from the hand penned paper that is in the annual catalog, and they have used it in a black and white color scheme for the celebration paper. So we have these images here on the black and white, and on the reverse side of that are the polka dots in black and white. Then we have the scallops here with these flowers, and then we have the stripes with these flowers. So it's kind of neat how they took a beautiful colored paper and then turned it into this black and white fabulous reward. So you can earn this designer series paper August 3rd through September 30th when you spend $60 or more before tax or shipping with me, and that starts tomorrow. So I'm just going to put that to the side, and I'm going to pull in. So I've already cut my card base. So this is actually 11 by 4¼ and then I've scored my base at 5½ so that it folds in half, but I've also scored it at 4½ or 1½ depending on which way you're looking at it, because I'm going to do a fun fold here. So you can see it just opens a little bit differently. I don't know what it's called. I like to refer to it as the book fold, but I don't think that's what it's actually called. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my seal, and on this inside panel I am going to give that a good rub. And this color is Cherry Cobbler. It's a beautiful, almost cranberry color. It's so pretty. It's a great holiday color. So if you're looking at starting to plan your holiday cards, Cherry Cobbler is one to consider. So next I want to put a matte on there. And so this is basic black, and it measures 3 3/4 by 4. And then I've got that DSP, and so that's going to measure 3½ by 3 3/4. And so I'm just going to use my seal to attach all those layers together. Hi Sonia, thanks for sharing. All right. And then we're going to layer this piece on. Oops. right, so that should give us a nice 1/8 of an inch mat on all of those elements all the way around. So pretty. I love this paper. I don't know if the camera's picking up. You can kind of see that alcohol wash sort of in behind it. It's just so pretty. Now I could leave the spine in this cherry cobbler, but I feel it looks naked. So what I've done is I've pulled in a piece of the basic black again, but I've embossed it. I don't know if you can see those little leaves. And then if you flip it over, it's what they call the debossed side, so it's actually indented. And so that's the side I'm going to put on my spine here. So this piece is 1 1/4 by 4, and I want my leaves to go in this direction. And because the embossed side is on the underside, I'm actually going to use my Seal Plus on this. It's just a little bit stronger, and when you're applying your adhesive, you want to go slow. The fibers have been weakened by the embossing, and so if you're not careful, you will actually tear the paper as you're putting your adhesive on. And so I did use the greenery embossing folders. I thought I still had it out. I do. So this is the embossing folder I used. It's actually part of a 2-piece set, and this is in the annual catalog, and it works with the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which I love. So you don't have to pull out your big machine to do this little bit of embossing. So we're just going to line that up. And I always like to flip my card over and give it a rub from the back side just to make sure everything is nice and attached. So super cute so far. I think the leaves complement these little sprigs nicely. So then I pulled in complimentary stamp set, Hand Penned Petals. And again, this is a stamp set that I've used lots, and I am using this image. So I've already stamped it and colored it just for timing. So I stamped on basic white in Memento ink. Here's my ink, Memento, and then I used my cherry cobbler blends to color the blooms. So just the 2 flowers leaving the center. And I'm going to go in with my Wink of Stella. And I just want to add some sparkle to those flowers. And this is about as far as I got. So I haven't designed any further beyond here. The color scheme and this particular flower is what I was inspired to do by demonstrator Kylie Bertucci. So actually I do have another element. So this is actually vellum, and I've used the painted label dies to cut this out. So these are also in the annual catalog. So this is the set of dies that you receive. So there's some tags, there's some detailed scallops, some detailed circles, some blooms, and then we have this beautiful swirly circle. So that is what I used to cut out my piece of vellum. And what I want to do is I actually want to layer this flower on top of my vellum, although I don't know how much I want that to poke out. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to raise it off the background so the contrast will actually allow you to see the vellum better on the DSP. But I also want to get a greeting in here, so I'm thinking I like that. And then what I want to do is get my greeting. So this is just a basic white scrap, and I do want to see if one of these will work. I don't know if that's going to be too big. I think that might be too big. So let's see. No. Oops. Things falling beside me. I've been busy working on some Christmas cards. So these are the Stitch So Sweetly dies. And I think I might just use one of these. Yes, so that's the smallest rectangle. And let's see if this is going to fit in there. It's not. So this is good because now I can show you how you can actually adjust your cutting. But I also wanted to demonstrate a technique that I love and I haven't done in a while. I actually pulled it out as I've been creating the Christmas cards I'm working on, and that is heat embossing. So it's one of my favorites, and I also want to show you how you can emboss in a color that doesn't have an embossing pattern. So I'm going to pull out my heat tool, which is here beside me. So if you're watching the camera in the upper left corner, it's just off to my side, and I'm going to grab my embossing powder. So I'm grabbing, I keep my embossing powder in these little containers, so I'll actually end up dumping it out and labeling my containers so that I know which is which. But this is my clear embossing powder. And then I have Versamark ink, which is what we're going to stamp in. But I'm also going to grab my Cherry Cobbler ink pad. You're probably wondering why I'm grabbing my Cherry Cobbler ink pad, and that's because I actually want what I'm embossing to be Cherry Cobbler, but we don't have Cherry Cobbler embossing powder. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, well, first of all, I still have this. This is called an embossing buddy. We no longer carry these, but a dryer sheet works really well. So I've just rubbed this across my paper, and what it does is it removes any static charge so that when I put my embossing powder on, I'll be able to wipe off any excess without smearing my image. So I've just inked my stamp in Versamark, and now I'm going to ink my stamp in Cherry Cobbler. I'm going to put that on my cardstock, and I'm going to sprinkle the whole thing with clear embossing powder, and this is going to make it look like I've used Cherry Cobbler embossing powder, which is not a thing. So I don't know if you can see that the clear powder is over top of the stamped image, and I'm just going to dump the rest of my clear in here. Put this to the side, and then this is going to get loud for a moment, but I'm going to try and do it on camera so you can see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to mute the camera for a second while I do this, but watch how the image changes as the embossing powder sets. So I'm going to mute. So I don't know how well you were able to see that change because it is pretty fine, but you can see it's much more defined, it's darker in color, and it is now a raised image on the paper. And again, I don't know how well the camera is going to pick that up, but that image is raised so it adds texture. So one of my favorite techniques. It's just so cool. It adds that wow factor. And then we're going to use this scalloped rectangle to cut out our thanks. Now I was going to actually trim it, but I think it's going to fit perfectly. So this is the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm going to create my layers. I have another cutting plate here somewhere. There it is. And then we're going to run that through. To get our sentiment. Okay. And now we get to sort of play with positioning. I think I like that. What do you guys think? So pretty. All right, so what I want to do, first thing I want to do is I want to attach my flower to the die cut here, and I want to use dimensionals, so I'm going to grab those. And I'm going to be careful about where I put these because I want to be able to put dimensionals on the vellum on the card to pop the whole thing up, but I don't want the dimensionals to see through, so you really have to be careful when you're using vellum as to where you put your adhesive. Put one there. Okay. So this. I think I like that, and then this can tuck in there. Yes, okay. But the thanks I'm not going to pop up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attach this first. So you can see I'm going to put my dimensionals underneath where they are covered by the image. And then once I get this attached where I want it, so we're going to put this one there. So I'm going to use my seal to do that. Lovely. So now I can put dimensionals on the back side here to support my label, knowing that they're not going to be seen. So I'm going to peel those backs off. Oops. Put that whole thing on there like so. So there is our card front. Loving it. And then of course, if you've been following me very long, you know I love bling. So a card would not be complete without some sparkle. And I think I'm going to use the Elegant Faceted Gems. And these are just the clear. So these are not the frosted. And I'm going to put, yeah, I'm going to put one down here. And one on either side. That. And there we have a fun card. And the gems are hard to see on the camera. If I pull them up, maybe you can see them a little bit better. There are two there, and then one down here just to tie it all together. And then you have that fun opening. So pretty. I love how the cherry cobbler black and white really pull together, and I love that I was able to create an embossed look in the cherry cobbler ink. So that is my project for tonight. Quick and easy. I'm going to turn the camera back around. There we go. What do you guys think? I love a simple fold that just, it's a little bit different, but it's still really easy. Doesn't have a ton of fussy bits to it. So don't forget, tomorrow is the start of the mini catalog, which means today is the last day to order Designer Series paper at a discount. Lots of great things coming tomorrow. The catalog is beautiful. I've shown a couple of the stamp sets already on my previous lives. If you live in Canada, you're not currently working with the demonstrator and you need a catalog, you can fill out my catalog request form and I will happily mail you out a catalog as well as my upcoming class schedule. Thank you all for joining on this long weekend. I hope you all have a fabulous week ahead. Take care, everybody.